Good afternoon. The Secretary General and the President will have opening statements, and then we'll have time for a couple of questions, both online and hopefully also here in the room. Secretary General.
President Džaferović, welcome to NATO Headquarters. It's great to see you here. And it is really a pleasure to welcome you because Bosnia and Herzegovina is a highly valued partner for NATO. We strongly support your sovereignty and territorial integrity and remain committed to your Euro-Atlantic aspirations for the benefit of all your people. NATO is a steadfast supporter of peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina and across the Western Balkans. Our political dialogue and practical cooperation are more important than ever, with Russia's brutal war against Ukraine and its malign influence across the region. So NATO will do even more to stand with our partners. We've just had a very constructive discussion on how we can further deepen our cooperation with Bosnia and Herzegovina. This could include developing a new defense capacity building package, enhancing our cooperation on small arms and light weapons, counter-terrorism, crisis management, and cyber security. Reinforcing our headquarters in Sarajevo with more personnel and financial resources, and supporting expert teams' visits and counter-disinformation efforts. By stepping up both our political and practical support, we can help build resilience and prevent any future aggression. Any further assistance would be tailored, demand-driven, and fully coordinate with Bosnia and Herzegovina. We also discussed NATO's role in Operation Althea. Our cooperation with the European Union on this remains essential, and we will continue to support this important EU operation. We also addressed the importance of unified structures of Bosnia and Herzegovina, including the armed forces, one of the country's strongest multi-ethnic institutions. These institutions are absolutely vital for the stability of your country, and they must be preserved. I urge all sides to stop divisive rhetoric and take concrete steps towards reconciliation. So, President, thank you again for being here today. You will now participate in a meeting of the North Atlantic Council with all the 30 allies, and that will provide you to continue the discussions on how to further strengthen the partnership between Bosnia and Herzegovina and NATO. A further demonstration of how important our dialogue and cooperation are with Bosnia and Herzegovina. So once again, welcome. Please, you have the floor.
Hvala vam, poštovani generalni sekretaru NATO saveza. Hvala vam na prilici da danas razgovaramo o odnosima Bosne i Hercegovine.
Thank you for this opportunity to discuss the relations between Bosnia and Herzegovina and NATO today and the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As you've said yourself, our meeting was very constructive and along the lines of what both we and you in NATO want. We are an aspiring NATO member. In 2005, we chose that as our objective. In 2009, we submitted the membership action plan, and that's our status today with NATO.
Unfortunately, there are also problems. There are certain political forces who are questioning the NATO path of Bosnia and Herzegovina. But I am here at NATO to say that what is important are the decisions of the institutions of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The action plan that was adopted by the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina regarding the membership in NATO. And those decisions are decisions that we have to treat as decisions that have have been adopted as they have and that are valid. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a state where NATO accomplished a lot. NATO stopped the war, established peace, and has been working in a dedicated way on the implementation of the Dayton Peace Agreement. NATO is basically a safeguard of the Dayton Peace Agreement, peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I would like to use this opportunity to thank you for everything NATO has done. I am completely convinced that NATO will continue protecting the Dayton Peace Accord, peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thank you for the adopted package of support to the countries aspiring to become NATO members, especially in the light of the possible spillover of crisis caused by Russian aggression against Ukraine. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is Russian influence present, unfortunately, and that is why we have to treat that influence adequately. There are open threats to Bosnia and Herzegovina that have been sent by Russia, expressed by the Russian ambassador in Sarajevo, that Bosnia and Herzegovina will suffer if it continues going down the path of NATO membership. However, we are going to continue down our NATO path, and we are not going to ask anyone else what our path should be. We made certain decisions, and we are going to remain consistent in implementing those decisions. I would like to ask you that during the NATO summit in Madrid, provide NATO support, express NATO support to the NATO path of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also refer to the obligations that NATO has in the light of the Dayton Peace Agreement. I would like you to strengthen the NATO headquarters in Sarajevo. We consider that very important because NATO headquarters, along with Althea mission, is the legal successor of the original NATO missions in Bosnia and Herzegovina, concluded in 2004 with the S4 Stabilization Force mission, to be specific. Thank you for your support to the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I wish that our contacts, our meetings are more frequent, that our cooperation is stronger, that the cooperation between NATO and armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina further improves, that our armed forces are as much as possible adapted to NATO standards in the future. We have established them and reformed them in line with NATO standards, and I wish for that to continue. Please continue providing full support to the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thank you once again for this opportunity to meet, to discuss some issues of importance. Thank you for the support of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And thank you for your decisiveness to continue protecting Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Western Balkans as a whole.
We'll go to Sarajevo first by Zoom. We'll go to N1 TV and Esmir Milavic.
Thanks, Ana. Question for Secretary General. Yesterday you spoke with the Croatian President Milanović. He is threatening to veto Finland's membership in NATO in relation to the electoral reform in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What is your comment on that, and will you work with the President Milanović to fix that issue? And also, will you invite Bosnia and Herzegovina and other partners to join you in Madrid for summit next month? I'm going to switch to Bosnian for President Džaferović. Gospodine Džaferoviću,
question for President Džaferović. Mr. Džaferović, in Bosnia and Herzegovina there is a lot of talk about peaceful separation, while from Croatia we have been receiving messages on the forming of a potential self-government. This is specifically what was told by President Milanović. Do you expect NATO to be one of the forces that will continue preserving stability and peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
First, on my conversation with President Milanović yesterday, that was a constructive conversation, a constructive call, and he raised the concerns he also has expressed publicly, especially on the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but we also discussed the potential membership of Finland and Sweden. And I would just say that I'm confident that we will find a solution. Finland and Sweden will become members of the alliance. All allies agree that NATO's door is open, that Finland and Sweden are mature and well-developed countries that meet the NATO standards, and therefore I'm confident that we will find a way to also find common ground on how to invite Finland and Sweden to become members of our alliance. On the formats of the Madrid summit, that is not yet finally decided, but what I can say is that I'm absolutely confident that heads of state and government, when they meet in Madrid, that they will make decisions and recommit to the strong partnership with Bosnia and Herzegovina to further strengthen the partnership with Bosnia and Herzegovina and to recognize the importance of the NATO presence, including the NATO headquarters, and the importance of strengthening defense capacity building, ensuring interoperability, and also addressing the important issue of multi-ethnic armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that we will continue both a very close political dialogue but also practical cooperation with Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that will be decided and stated clearly when heads of state and government meet in Madrid.
Dakle, izborni zakon Bosne i Hercegovine je unutrašnje pitanje Bosne i
The
Hercegovine.
election law of Bosnia and Herzegovina is an internal issue of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we in Bosnia and Herzegovina will be deciding on that issue in line with the standards of the European Court of Human Rights and European Convention on Human Rights. We've invested a lot of efforts so far to implement those decisions, and I think that the entire world knows, the EU and the US, everyone knows why those negotiations on the election law have not succeeded so far, and where the responsibility for that lies. But I would like to mention here that it's not acceptable for Bosnia and Herzegovina to condition anyone's road to NATO with our election law, and we'll regulate those issues according to the rulings of the European Court of Human Rights. That would be my comment regarding the question about the election law. And when it comes to the recent statements by Mr. Dodik and everyone else should know that there is no, and especially no peaceful dissociation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or separation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And everyone else should also know that there can't be any additional territorial or ethnic division in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There is the Dayton Peace Accords and the 27 years of painstaking reforms in our country. And it's the best for everyone in Bosnia and Herzegovina to strictly and with no reservation maintain all that we have in force today. It is not possible for anyone to change what we have as applicable solutions today with any unilateral action. They can only threaten peace and stability in that way. And all of those who attack Bosnia and Herzegovina, they should finally learn something from the past and from history, and they should know that even stronger ones have not succeeded to destroy Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they will not succeed either. And if they continue, they will end up how those who tried to break Bosnia and Herzegovina in the 1990s will see the same end. I'm convinced that we will preserve peace and stability in our country, that Bosnia and Herzegovina will continue going down its road, and that the institutions will finally be deblocked, and that the decisions taken in the entity of Republika Srpska will be annulled, and they attacked the constitutional order and the institutions of the country, and that we will successfully continue our Euro-Atlantic road and our reform path within the country, which is what is best for all of us in Bosnia and Herzegovina, for the Western Balkans in general, and for Europe and the entire world. Of course, I'm confident that NATO, as Bosnia and Herzegovina's partner, will protect peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina, including on the basis of the obligations stemming from the Dayton Peace Accords, and that no destabilization will be allowed. And that's important. That's why it's important to keep international troops in Bosnia and Herzegovina, to reinforce them, to extend the mission Althea at the Security Council session in November this year. But if the extension of the mandate is called into question, international forces should stay even then based on the Dayton Peace Agreement to protect peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's the best for Bosnia and Herzegovina, Western Balkans, and the entire world.
We'll go to Al Jazeera Balkans and Nadina Malik-Begovic.
Thank you so much. I hope you hear me. I have two questions for Secretary General. First one, okay, we know that NATO is helping to Bosnia every time, all the time, but is NATO aware of a very tense situation in Bosnia? And what can Bosnia expect if there is a real threat to peace? Second, President of Croatia, Zoran Milanović, said some very delicate things about Bosnia, about Croats in Bosnia, and about their situation. So we understood that as a president of another country, his speech and his words were delicate. So how can you comment this?
Well, we are, of course, monitoring very closely and following very closely the developments in Bosnia and Herzegovina. NATO has a long history in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We helped to create peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the brutal ethnic war there. We continue our presence in Bosnia and Herzegovina with the headquarters in Sarajevo, and also with the support to the EU operation Althea. So we are committed for the long haul. We are there to continue to provide support to ensure peace and stability. And of course, we are concerned, and we follow closely some of the very divisive rhetoric, some of the inflammatory messages, not least coming from Republika Srpska, and that's exactly why we also are now looking into how we can further strengthen our practical support, including on defense capacity building measures, on how to strengthen our presence at the headquarters, and also how we can work more closely together on light arms, but also on other areas which are of importance for helping to preserve peace, stabilize Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also to counter disinformation, and also work on issues like, for instance, cyber defense. So there's a wide range of issues where we are now looking into to further strengthen a demand-driven, tailored capacity building support for Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the aim of this is, of course, to prevent new instability, to prevent a new war. So we are there to preserve peace, of course, in close cooperation with Bosnia and Herzegovina, our close and highly valued partner. Then on the phone call with the President of Croatia, I don't have anything more to add, that he raised concerns that he has also raised publicly. And of course, when NATO allies raises concerns, then I listen, and it's part of the dialogue between allies that issues, also sensitive and difficult issues, are discussed. That's part of being 30 allies, and then also of course, Bosnia and Herzegovina being a close and highly valued partner. Then we also discuss issues with them, also difficult issues when that is needed. So that's what I have to say on that phone call.
Okay. We have one last question from Swedish News Agency.
Yes, Victor Nummelin from the Swedish news agency TT. For the General Secretary, could you fill us in a little bit what NATO is doing to solve this dispute between Turkey, Sweden and Finland, and if it would be a good idea to separate Finland and Sweden, to take one by one instead of doing it together? And for the President as well, what can Bosnia do in this situation? Can Bosnia have a feeling to help Sweden and Finland or to assist in some way in this application process? Thank you.
We are, of course, working on this issue, and there is a regular and ongoing dialogue with Sweden and Finland, and of course we are in close contact with the NATO ally Turkey. There is a meeting today, and there are contacts at different levels, meetings at different levels, phone calls at different levels, and I myself also spoke with President Erdogan on Saturday. I spoke with the Croatian President yesterday, and there is an ongoing dialogue also here at NATO, where we have the presence of all 30 allies, including also Turkey, and then we have the diplomatic missions of Finland and Sweden. So from the prime ministers, presidents, and at the different levels and in different ways, we engage also at the ambassadorial level to find a solution. My message is that I'm confident that we will find a solution. All allies agree that NATO's open door has been and is a great historic success. We have proven again and again when there are differences among NATO allies, when allies like Turkey raises concerns, we sit down and then we address them. We need 30 allies to agree. We are working on that. Finland and Sweden, of course, they made their own separate decisions, but they decided to apply the same day, and we are working on this as together. And I think it is important message that Finland and Sweden are sending, that they submitted their applications on the same day, and we are working on this as one joint effort by the two countries to join our alliance, and I welcome the applications from both Finland and Sweden.
I support the NATO path of Sweden and Finland, and I've said this publicly. There is no dilemma for me about that. I really believe that the solution will be found regarding the concerns expressed by Turkey, as said by the Secretary General.
Many thanks. This concludes this press point. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Thank you.